Hello once again. So today I'm going to talk about money. Money is something everybody cares about, yet most people don't seem to have enough. Why is that? Could it be that subconscious beliefs about life and money actually create the conditions that we live in? Is being poor or being rich a state of being? Well, this is something that is surely worth investigating, and I myself find it fascinating how we can affect reality with our minds. It's really true that your inner world determines your outer world, but how could this be? Most people work really hard, usually for someone else, believing that this is the way to achieve financial security, but is it? And where did this belief come from? When we look at how for most people the vast majority of their life is run on subconscious autopilot, it becomes easier to understand why rich people stay rich and poor people stay poor. A huge part of our subconscious programs were recorded during the first 7 years of our life. Now imagine your parents who, maybe not all of the time, but consistently throughout your childhood are talking about how they can't afford this, or I wish I had more money to do this, and so on. Couple this with perhaps shame and guilt programming the child with lines such as, "You don't deserve this," then you have ripe conditions for poverty consciousness to be created. Now imagine you are in an environment as a child where money is no object, and you never hear the line, "I can't afford that." Instead, you are recording subconscious programs that life is abundant and money comes easily. Of course, you may still have other negative programs picked up from your parents that, if not worked on, could still lead to negative outcomes, but having the abundance program entails receiving abundance. What the people at the top of this system teach their kids about money is very different from what the rest of humanity is taught. School doesn't teach anything about the real nature of money, and in fact is forbidden to do so. This is of course by no accident, for the powers that be know that to stay at the top they have to get everyone else to believe a false version of reality that suits their agenda. A big part of the cultural conditioning still affecting many in the West today is actually a hangover from the long reign Christianity had over people's minds. As an example, and I quote, "No one can serve two masters, for he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money." End quote. This basically states that to be spiritual and aligned with God, you have to cast away your wealth and live in poverty. What a clever way to disempower anyone who may wish to align with the divine. I can relate to having fallen for this one myself. Although I am not a Christian and never got any information from the Bible, in many New Age beliefs it is common to see hippies, for example, to be poor. The same deception in new clothes. From my own experience, until recently I didn't have a good relationship with money, and 3 years ago it was terrible. All my research on the banking system and the shadow government led me to hate money. Funny, when I had a bad relationship with money, I didn't have any. When I did get any, I would spend it so fast I might as well set it on fire. It was only after I started to change my perception on money did I actually begin to attract more of it. At first I just experimented with some abundance manifestation, and lo and behold, I manifested a new job which for me at the time was good pay and I enjoyed it. Although my spending habits were still not great, and I almost always spent more than I earned in the long run, I still was earning more, so a good start, I guess. It would be about 2.5 years from this point before I really started to dive deep into how money actually works instead of focusing on what we are led to believe. More on that later. Now for some more Bible bashing. And I quote, "He who loves money will not be satisfied with money, nor he who loves wealth with his income. This is also vanity." End quote. This one is pretty obvious, right? Why would you not love money when simply it is energy and a part of this wonderful creation we are immersed in? Sure, it has been partly perverted by the Matrix control system and friends, but so has nearly everything on this world right now. It's just a hangover from the long reign of darkness we are going through. But the divine reality is slowly taking shape from the ashes of the old, so to stick to the dying remains of an old world with its corrupted values benefits no good person and only serves the negative agenda. And I quote, "For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. It is through the craving that some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many pangs." End quote. Now, this is a classic one. How many times have you heard that money is the root of all evil? I certainly have heard it many times, and for a long time I would just shrug and agree, not really knowing what it meant to agree to such a fallacy. I would say there are a few roots of evil that have been seeded into humanity. A big part of this would be the lack of knowledge of how this reality works. Ignorance really does endanger, whilst knowledge can set you free. This is why it is so important for anyone who wants to achieve freedom in this life to read, read, and read. If you have knowledge on yourself and this reality, with enough dedication, freedom is the ultimate result. Okay, enough on the Bible for now. It is great we live in a time where so many more people actually can read, and with the internet now, access to information has never been easier. Unfortunately, the ability to get lost in distraction has also never been easier, so it's as if the times we are in have led to further polarization. People get to choose whether they want to stay in ignorance or achieve liberation. I assume everyone listening to this would like to achieve freedom, right? Well, let's do it then. It happens by transcending this matrix, and to do that money is very useful for this to have greater maneuverability in this world. Of course, it is not the be-all and end-all, for what truly matters is your own personal vibration. This is tied in with your subconscious beliefs. If you believe you do not deserve to be rich, then simply you will not attract that which makes you wealthy. However, if you are able to reprogram yourself to be in alignment with abundance, then you will attract that. Now things get a little bit more complicated here than what is usually put out in the New Age about the law of attraction, for when manifesting we have to be sure to do it in alignment with our higher good and the good of others. Simply wishing to manifest a really expensive new sports car for the sake of showing off to your friends or enemies, when you may already have a perfectly functioning car, is manifesting from the lower ego, and this is where Wetiko has its claws in our minds. If we are manifesting from this lower corrupted state of being, then guess what will come in to answer our call? Will it be the negative forces residing on the planet who will, like a credit card, give you what your lower ego desires for exchange of your soul? You have probably heard of musicians selling their soul to the devil, right? Many take this as a joke, but I really believe this is not far from the truth, where you can sell your life for material gains with the cost of soul slavery. Perhaps some people actually want this and desire to serve the dark side of Creator. That's fair enough. If people wish to do that, we need the bad guys to be as clever as they can so we can become even smarter to overcome them. Kinda like weight training for the soul. I think part of the problem lies when people who deep down wish to be good fall for the deception of the negative agenda and thus get caught in the traps of agreements that could potentially span lifetimes. Of course, we will all become enlightened eventually, but may as well get there in the most efficient way possible, right? Probably best to avoid going down a 20 lifetime long credit card repayment. Okay, so most of us probably won't do something so disastrous to have to repay our debt for many lifetimes, but any detail on our path to awakening is a victory for the dark and a loss for the light. Ultimately, all there is lessons, and we choose the rate in which we progress through them, even if it is from a higher part of our being. So essentially, money is not evil. In fact, I would say a lack of money is evil. Right now, we pretty much need to have money to be able to survive. Okay, some people are living without money, but how many of them do you know that are still wealthy whilst doing this? Most throw it all in and go and live somewhere secluded, leaving all of us to work this shit out. Money is not scarce. In fact, it is incredibly abundant. What we have to do is align ourselves with the flow of abundance. This can be done indirectly by raising one's vibration to a consistent, very high level. When this is done long enough, it will start to reprogram the subconscious and thus begin attracting in more ways to increase wealth. Now, for most, and myself included, it can take a little while to be able to achieve financial freedom. It is not like you can read this article, quit your job and think happy thoughts for a day and suddenly you're a millionaire. You would have to be super enlightened to be able to manifest like you're in a lucid dream. However, this reality is a dream of sorts, a collective dream, and it functions a lot like a lucid dream, just the vibration rate is slower, so things take a while to manifest. But this reality is like a pick-your-own-adventure book. What kind of life do you want for yourself? Do you want to be living paycheck to paycheck, calling your job financial security when one day someone can decide to turn your only source of income off? I have seen it in my own life. A man who loyally works solidly for 20 plus years for a company to only find out during a team meeting via a company restructuring PowerPoint presentation that he will be fired in a month's time. You call that financial security? Poor guy, he was really upset. Thankfully, I managed to quit that job and I attempted to start making my own way in life. I failed a couple of times, once very severely, as some of the readers of my blog may know. I had it really rough for a while. I bet it wouldn't have been so rough for me had I had different subconscious beliefs on the world. But hey, it was character building, I guess, and my times of hardship really helped me to appreciate having the luxuries of modern life. Sometimes a reminder is needed by throwing it all in and going off the grid for a while, but you may not need such drastic slaps in the face to begin to change your perceptions of money. To begin to attract more money into your life, I really believe the best way is to find out what your passion or passions are. This can take a while, and for me it took a while before I figured it out for myself, and I experimented with a few things before discovering what I am really good at and I enjoy doing and what can also serve the greater good of humanity. I believe it will become increasingly harder to survive and thrive unless you are polarized towards the divine or the dark side of the Creator. To attract vast abundance, I think the best way is to be of service to others. You really have to dedicate your whole life to the betterment of others. Now, this doesn't mean you forget yourself in the process, for you will still have to maintain yourself and be as healthy as possible to be able to be of the best service to others. This means you have to find the path of your heart. What can you do that nobody else can do better? We are creators. We are great when we are creating. So creativity is usually a good place for many people. It is for me anyway. Other people are good at being healers. You could say they create health. Maybe that's pushing it, but you get where I'm coming from. Money is energy. Abundance follows your heart follows your passion, and you follow, well, only you know that. I know of many people who have had nothing in their lives in terms of material wealth, who turned their life around and now have achieved riches for themselves and their family. Some others that do not desire to have vast abundance, but just a little bit of abundance, so that they can live a comfortable life not having to worry about money. It is really up to the individual on what they want out of this life. For example, I would like to be able to create my own healing research center dedicated to the evolution of consciousness. Now you can bet that will cost a lot of money, but I'm prepared to be able to handle the lifestyle that such a life would bring. I can be sure it won't be peaceful, but I really would love to achieve this. I can see my past experience working in a variety of different community settings, farms, spiritual centers, and so on, have laid a good foundation for this. Now I just have to continue my spiritual journey, so I am of best fit to be able to handle the psychological and emotional aspects of running such a place. Now the thing is, I am not attached to this goal, although I really would love to achieve it and will do everything I can to make it. If the universe has other plans, then I would be best to follow the divine, for it knows so much more than what I do. And having trust in the divine is a part of my spiritual journey. I really do trust the Creator knows what it's doing, and I wouldn't want to mess that up. Still, why would I have the opportunity to achieve such a life path if it would not serve the betterment of consciousness? It's interesting to think about, and we'll see how it goes. For now, I am incredibly grateful for the life I have. I have great work balance, which allows me to have a lot of leisure time to be able to work on projects I enjoy. Writing, talking, creating music. Making music being my personal favourite. What would your life be like if you were to achieve financial freedom? Would you just be lazing about on a beach for the rest of your days? Or would you be following your hobbies, interests and passions? Now ask yourself, what can you do to be as if you were already living that life? Every small step in the right direction will set you up to eventually be able to create a life where you have even more time to do what your heart desires. I assume, having listened this far, that this is something you would enjoy. Well, it is totally possible, and once you begin, if you haven't already, then you can start to see the benefits of being on such a journey. Although it can be a little bit more complicated, essentially where we focus our attention is where our energy goes. Now, if you are constantly complaining about the world, seeing only the negative in all things, especially successful people, no matter how they got there, what kind of effect do you think this will have on your reality? Now, what if you are aligning your thoughts, feelings and actions with the intention of achieving the highest good for all? God helps those who help themselves. There are divine forces on standby, ready to assist you in a multitude of ways. But if you shut yourself off to them, via your wallowing in lower vibrations, and perhaps by not believing in them at all, well then you are shutting yourself off to a huge helping hand. Things get really interesting when reality creation is done in the right way. Amazing things can manifest. I will now read for you an account from Tom Montauk. And in this example, we see how reality can be altered by a vibration. The key is to manifest from your higher part of your being and align with your intentions. Okay, and I quote, I had been running a Mac Mini for many years. It was starting to show its age, and that made video and audio editing extremely difficult and inefficient. I couldn't do the next phase of my work without something better. I desperately needed a new computer, but didn't have the money, and my living space didn't allow for a large video editing rig either. Just then, I heard news about Apple's new Mac Pro, which was exactly what I had in mind. It was powerful, had high RAM capacity, and best of all, its footprint was no larger than the Mini. Only problem, it was over 5,000 United States dollars for the configuration I wanted. I thought about it, focused on it here and there, but how nice it would be to have it sitting there on my desk and then put it out of my mind. For the next several weeks, I just put effort into raising my vibes every day before stepping out of bed. That meant getting into a good, optimistic, empowered mood before starting my day, being grateful for life and existence and the good people of this world, having compassion and love for the suffering, and so on. The longer I kept this up, the more positive everyday life events became. Within 4 weeks, I felt like a different person, and then my dad emails me out of the blue saying he just discovered my grandma, who had passed away a year prior, still had a savings account for me that she started when I was a kid, which none of us knew about, and that he was going to transfer the money to me. I was so grateful to my grandma for having done that, as it will go toward a pivotal tool needed for what I had to do in life. So a week later, the money came through, I checked in, and surprise, it was just over 5,000 United States dollars. In fact, when I configured the new Mac, the cost plus tax and shipping equaled the transfer with about 50 United States dollars left over. So within around a month of needing a new computer and not having the money for it, suddenly the money appeared and it ended up on my desk just as I had originally envisioned it. In this case, it wasn't a matter of frivolous luxury, but a necessity to advance the story of my life, and I think that transforming my mindset and vibes helped open the door for that to happen in an almost effortless way. End quote. Now that's quite amazing, isn't it? Now that really is quite special and shows how this reality is quite mysterious in many ways. So I'll leave you with that, folks. You can ponder that, see what comes up, deeply contemplate just how amazing this reality can be. And I have an article related to this on my website, which has links to more of this kind of material if you found this interesting. But for now, we'll call it a day. And until next time, goodbye.